Welcome back to the Wise League podcast, everyone. Today we have typical host Ethan and a friend of mine who's a guest right now, a guest host, Josh Ho. Say hello.
Hello, how's it going, everyone?
Good. He's from John Hersey High School, and you do your own movie podcast called What's Poppin'. It's great. And today we're going to talk about, in quarantine, why is Inglourious Basterds so good? Or talk about, why it's so good. Talk about everything that's great about it. And personally, why I think it's one of Tarantino's best movies. So, Josh, what are your initial thoughts on Inglourious Basterds compared to, Pulp Fiction and whatnot?
Okay. So I must preface this by saying I haven't seen that much of Tarantino's work. I've seen Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Basterds, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's it. I've been slacking a little bit. Inglourious Basterds was the first Tarantino movie I saw. I think I saw about 2 or 3 years ago. I saw Brad Pitt. I'm like, ooh, got to see it. And I was blown away mainly by how seamless it flowed. You take a look at the runtime, it's like 2.5 hours long.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's going to be in for a long one. But you don't feel it whatsoever. Starting with the opening scene, which is like 15 minutes long.
Absolutely not. That's
just
like a
grips
20-minute scene that just keeps going.
Oh, yeah.
Ethan?
Oh, yeah. So, honestly, my favorite scene is kind of like the first scene. So, because, it, in a way, sets up the movie really, subtly. Because, obviously, the girl that escapes, Hans and all that, she ends up being, the main one in the end that kind of does the plot in the movie theater to try to end up killing Hitler and Goebbels and all of the main Nazi people. But I just like the subtlety of the scene and how kind of, it just really plays on your emotions because you know in the back of your head that there is obviously Jews hiding in the house. You know that. Obviously, Hans knows that too. He's sitting there and he's like, I know there's Jews here, but he plays it out. He's almost like, I'm trying to think of a relative person that I could compare him to, but he manipulates the scene really well. He manipulates the emotions by almost playing along as if, oh, I don't really know anything's going on. I'm just here kind of playfully, this is all la-di-da-di-da. And then, obviously he comes in and then eventually they end up shooting the Jews under the floor. And I just really like that scene. I think it's a great way to start off the movie. And I agree with what you said, how it kind of flowed. And even though it was a 20-minute scene, it didn't feel like that. It felt like a quick scene because you were emotionally involved in it, which I thought was really well done.
What I also really love, it's a great introduction. We get to know the main villain, who's probably, in my opinion, and we'll get to that later, of why he's probably one of the best villains of all time. So let me just share a quick snippet from that scene on my screen, but luckily a portion of it's in English, so we'll play it for the listeners right here. So we're going to share this. Okay. Never mind then. Or wait, hang on.
I think Netflix has a thing where they prevent you from screen sharing in their application.
Hugo Stiglitz.
Let's see.
That would not surprise me.
Yeah, never mind. Stop share. But anyways, great scene overall. Might share a snippet later. It's a great introduction because at first, the French farmer that we're introduced to, we do know that it's eventually revealed that he's revealing Jews in his house under the floorboards. And, Landa, we think, is a typical Nazi officer, just comes in oblivious to what's going on. And then La Petite, the farmer, says, we don't have them. And then the genius of Landa reveals that he does know and takes the information from the farmer. And since the Jews only know French, they speak in English, and Landa is fluent, and this is also amazing to Christoph Waltz. He's fluent in English, French, German, and Italian, which I'll also get to later, which is probably one of the best. Oh, another great scene. So then they speak in French, so they Jews understand. Then he plays with the Jews under the floorboards to manipulate them into thinking that they're being saved, because he brings his officers in, pretending that they're the women who also reside on the farm, and then killing them. So that's really, I love that scene.
The attention to detail in Tarantino, there were 3 sisters, so he brings in 3 troops.
Oh yeah,
just play with the Jews' emotions. It's really well written, well blocked.
It is one of the best. Then we instantly transition into...
Wait, give me a second. Sorry.
No problem.
I'm sorry, my dad interrupted. Can you just cut this
problem,
out?
No problem. Hang on. I might actually be able to share a snippet of the scene on YouTube. Let me just skip to it. Let's see. Let me just play a snippet from you. Let's see. Share a screen. Hope you all can hear it. Can y'all hear it?
I think so.
Before I can officially cross your family's name off my list, and if there are any irregularities to be found, rest assured they will be. That is unless you have something to tell me that makes the conducting of a search unnecessary. I might add also that any information that makes the performance of my duty easier will not be met with punishment. Actually, quite the contrary. It will be met with reward. That reward will be your family will cease to be harassed in any way by the German military during the rest of our occupation of your country. You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not? Yes. You're sheltering them underneath your floorboards, aren't you? Yes. Point out to me the areas where they're hiding. Since I haven't heard any disturbance, I assume while they're listening, they don't speak English. Yes. I'm going to switch back to French now, and I want you to follow my masquerade sound clear. Yes. Monsieur Lapadite, je vous remercie pour votre hospitalité. Il me semble que nous en avons terminé. Ah, mesdames, je vous remercie pour le temps que vous m'avez consacré. Nous n'ennuierons pas votre famille plus longtemps. Donc, monsieur, mesdemoiselles, je prends congé de vous et je vous dis adieu.
I also want to comment on what a great shot this is of Landa in the door. Beautiful shot.
Shoshana!
What a great scene. And a great opener.
Mm-hmm. Take a look at that runtime. That's a 20-minute scene.
Yeah, it's just... And also just the text. I know I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, But again, like you said, Josh, this keeps flowing. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's different, but it's much more slower. But Inglourious Basterds, the action keeps going. You're just so caught up, you don't even feel the 2.5 hours. And even the title, or not the opening title, not the name of the movie, Once Upon a Time in Nazi-occupied France.
I feel like they split my, because I think one of the things that sometimes, especially with can I wait? Should I keep going?
Yeah, no, keep going.
Okay. So one of the things I think that Tarantino did well in the film, because I think especially when you're making like an action film, one of the easiest things to get caught up in is making it like all action, and where it's literally just like bombs going off and guns shooting like constantly and blood going around everywhere. And like there's no points of dialogue. It's kind of just all action and it's sitting there. But I think the thing he does well with Inglourious Basterds is he mixes in kind of those parts of dialogue, those parts where there's some serious dialogue, manipulation of emotions, things like that, that is kind of more subtle. It's not like as maybe actiony as, you know, bombs going off and stuff. But at the same time, it still fits like the play of the movie. It still feels like an action movie even when those bits of dialogue are going on. So I think he handles those really well, and he makes them really powerful emotionally. So you feel for the characters and you actually start to like develop.
You're muted. Can't hear you. You're muted. There you are.
Okay, am I back now? Could you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So wait, where oh God, where was I? Where did it cut off?
Just finish up your last few thoughts.
I think that like I just finished up, so.
Yeah. But yeah, as a screenwriter, he does dialogue really well, and he also manages to provide a really convincing plot rather than, like you said, just action, which is the majority of today. So I think it's, really good that he kind of interspersed, really good dialogue, good plot, and also really not fun, but good action at the same time, which puts a cherry on top and fits it all together. And I just want to touch back on Once Upon a Time in Nazi-occupied France. It's just a generic intro, but once upon a time, he kills Hitler in the theater. Like that's not the ultimate conclusion, but that's like part of the fairy tale of this whole story, is that Hitler and a bunch of the other high-ranking Nazi officers in the German high command, they're all burned at the end. Yeah. And it's just one of the satisfying ending as well. So I think it's really good. It's a great movie. And also, what are your guys' favorite scenes besides the opening scene?
How's the opening scene?
I'd probably have to go with the scene in the bar with Michael Fassbender, that whole shootout.
Ooh, that's a great
That's also
scene.
A long scene. Has like really quippy dialogue when they're playing heads up.
Oh, that is so
And
fun.
It's got the action. It's got everything you need.
Yeah, you really...
I would have to agree.
Let me find one of the best. Let me skip to that. There's one shot in there that I really like that tells you everything that's going on. Let's see.
Make sure to hit the screen sharing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna... Let's see. I just need to skip ahead to it. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, I think I found it. We're gonna share a screen.
Und frische Gläser. Wir wollen ja nicht, dass Sie den 33er hier mit Ihrem Gesöfter verseuchen.
Wie viele Gläser? 5. Für mich nicht.
Ich mag Scotch. Scotch mag mich nicht.
Ich auch nicht. Ich bleib beim Shampoos.
3 Gläser.
This shot. The whole game is afoot right when he holds up the 3. Right when he holds up the 3. You don't know it yet unless you're German speaking. But typical viewer doesn't know what's going on way until later when Bridget von Hammersmark explains ultimately his mistake, which I'm going to explain for you. He holds up 3 fingers, his middle, his pinky, or not his pinky, his pointer finger, middle finger, and ring finger, all at once like a normal 3. But in German, you're supposed to do the thumb, the pointer, and the middle finger, or where you curl your pointer and your thumb, and it's just the other 3. So when ordering 3 glasses of beverage, he does the wrong 3, and that is why Major Hellstrom, right here, knows what's wrong. So good. One of the best shots in the film, and one of the best scenes, personally. But another great scene is when they actually enter the movie theater, and Aldo Rain, Omar, and and the Bear Jew, Donnie Donowitz, they all go into the theater pretending to be Italian members of the film industry. And little did they think that, Hans Land is German, so he doesn't speak Italian. Well, guess what? He speaks Italian. So, let's see. I'm going to...
Entita Kameramann Antonio Margheriti und Antonio's Kameraassistent Dominique De Cocco. Signori, questo è un vecchio amico mio, Colonnello Hans Landa della SS.
Buongiorno. Signori, è un piacere. Gli amici della vedetta ammirata da tutti noi, questa gemma propria della nostra cultura, saranno naturalmente accolti sotto la mia protezione per la durata del loro soggiorno. Grazie.
And you can even hear Brad Pitt's fake Tennessee accent, which his character has, in his even worse Italian accent. My God.
Gorlomi? Lo pronuncio correttamente? Sì, corretto. Gorlomi? Per cortesia, me lo ripeti ancora. Gorlami. Mi scusi con me? Gorlami. Ancora una volta. Gorlami. E come si chiama lei? Antonio Margareti. Ora? Margareti. Un'altra volta, ma adesso vorrei proprio sentire la musica delle parole. Margareti. Margheriti. E lei? Dominic De Cocco. Come? Dominic De Cocco. Bravo. Bravo.
Another, just overall, best scenes ever created. Where else do I begin? Everything's not
from the movie, like in terms of internet.
You there, Josh? Oh, there he is.
Sorry.
Oh.
Hello?
You're back? All right.
Yeah,
I think
sorry.
you're back.
Something was lagging.
No worries. So, as we go from like opening scene, best scene, action, what do you guys think about the ending?
Ooh, I kind of liked the ending. I thought the ending was kind of fitting, especially considering like the whole idea, like part of their thing was trying to identify the Nazis and make sure that you know if they killed them, they were known by scalping them and things like that. But I think by putting the swastika on the head of the last guy on Hans Landa, I think that was a really clever move. And I think it kind of shows their manipulation because throughout the film, Landa's the one that's kind of sitting there the whole time and manipulating everything. I guess maybe perhaps a good person to compare him to would be like Palpatine in the Star Wars movies. Palpatine's a very backside manipulative. He knows how to play people's emotions, things like that. And Landa kind of does that throughout the film. That's exactly what he does, in every scene. He manipulates people by kind of making them scared, but also not sure what's happening. And they kind of underestimate him, but he's far more intelligent, far more calculating than people give him credit for. But then in the end, he ends up getting played. And then, although he kind of gets part of what he wants, having the swastika on your head and going back to the United States, that's going to be hard to wear for the rest of your life. And so I kind of liked the way that they did that they ended on that note, because it was kind of almost satisfying. Because you hated, Landa throughout the whole film, and you kind of wanted him to pay in some way. And so doing that kind of leaves off on a satisfying note, in my opinion.
Because you think that Shoshana running the theater and blowing it up with the nitrate film, which is flammable, and even the bastards, Rain, Omar, and Donnie Donowitz with the explosives, everything would go fine. But then Landa finds out and realizes what's really going on. And then you find out later he captures Udovich and Aldo Rain and holds them hostage. And then he makes himself look like a double agent while calling, the United States. So he says, I want to be recognized for all this. I want to be given the Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
And make it seem like I was a double agent working for the Nazis all the time, and making it seem like, or saying, all the stuff that I did for Hitler would be, something to mask myself and make it look like I was, still loyal to the Third Reich. And then all of a sudden, he lets Brad Pitt, Aldo Rain, Udovich go. And then all of a sudden, Brad Pitt shoots the officer who was driving them out to the forest where the German-American line, or border, met. Not border, but front line. And then it ends so satisfyingly, because at first you don't know what they're doing, but then he grabs out his knife and then carves the swastika into his forehead so gruesomely, but also at the same time extremely satisfying.
Because, that they carved the swastika when you first meet the bastards, right? They say that he's carving it, but you don't really see it in the graphic detail that you do at the end.
Oh,
it sends a chill down your spine, but it's...
Yeah.
It's... Yeah, in my opinion, as I've stated before, better than all Tarantino's movies. Even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, every single film of his. This is probably one of his... Not probably, it is his best so far. Which... so satisfying. It's just constant intrigue to find out what happens. And even Shoshana, who's portraying herself as this French cinema owner who inherited it from her grandparents, she meets the high-ranking officer, Frederick Zoller, and, their kind of relationship plays in a bit. So that's really interesting. And when they're playing the movie, Nation's Pride, the film within a film, which is kind of funny, which is propaganda set up by Goebbels, she is visited by him in the theater, and then she shoots him, but that's not enough to kill him. He shoots her back, but then you get the fire still going on, so you're constantly wanting to find out what's happening next. So it's interesting.
It's absolute total carnage. As soon as that starts happening, they shoot each other, they're dead, and then that's when, the reel cuts out, and then you see Shoshana's face, and then the fire starts happening, and then you have the bastards with their guns shooting Hitler, then the explosives go off. It's that 2 or 3 minutes is absolute mayhem.
Oh, yeah. And then as they're sitting on, the balcony just firing down on everyone, too. Oh, yeah.
And even the introduction of one of the most funny characters is Hugo Stiglitz. I'm going to share another scene with you. I don't want to have the whole thing be, scene sharing, but I just want to show how genius this is. So let's see.
Everybody in the German army's heard of Hugo Stiglitz.
The reason for Hugo Stiglitz's celebrity among German soldiers is simple. As a German enlisted man, he killed 13 Gestapo officers. Instead of putting him up against the wall, the High Command decided to send him back to Berlin to be made an example of. Needless to say, once the bastards heard about him, he never got there.
Sergeant Hugo Stiglitz. Lieutenant Aldo Rain. These are the Bastards. Ever heard of us? You just want to say we're a big fan of your work when it comes to killing Nazis? I think you show great talent. I pride myself in having an eye for that kind of talent. Your status as a Nazi killer is still amateur. We all come here to see if you want to go pro.
Just so much fun. Even in Stiglitz's introduction, just that guitar riff. Oh, really just the style.
I feel like he doubles down on that style in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You have so
totally.
many of those like quick cutaway montages with that kind of music, and it really just helps set the vibe, keep things a little lighthearted.
Yeah, he does that a lot. And he provides really deep characters. Like, it's not just, generic love interest number one. It's actually like a Nazi officer who's well known. He calls himself the Jew Hunter, which I feel is like shows you how bad he is and how bad he's going to be, but you don't know that yet.
Yeah.
And even Donnie Donowitz calls himself the Bear Jew, which is, he's Jewish, but he's also very violent against Nazis, which also, again, it's everyone has like a reputation that precedes them.
Did you guys know who Tarantino wanted to play the Bear Jew? I don't know if you heard who his casting choice.
Who did he want to choose?
He wanted Adam Sandler to be the Bear Jew.
Oh my God, that would
really get him. That would have been so funny.
I can only imagine Adam Sandler in that role.
Yeah.
But still, Eli Roth. Oh, so good. So great. And let's see, what else do I want to talk about? I mean, it's really great. No. Okay, just what else do I want to discuss? Let me just show the clip, a short bit of the ending. Like, oh God. Let's see. Zoom, share screen. Then I think once I share this, we can talk about our ending thoughts and then I think we're good. All right.
I'm gonna give you something you can't take off.
Oh, jeez.
Ugh. Even the sound design is so good, but it's so gruesome. Even I'm flinching.
Something you rich? This just might be my masterpiece.
So good. Even the music is so diabolical that it ends on that note.
Are you guys big Office fans? Because like every time I see that, I'm like, that's Ryan.
Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan Howard.
BJ Novak.
Yeah, even when I started watching, I'm like, oh my God, that's BJ Novak. It's Ryan Howard. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Even a cameo by Mike Myers in one of the scenes. So good. I love Mike Myers. Besides, you know what? Quick poll before we leave. Favorite character?
I have to say Hans. I just think the way he's done is extremely well. The actor who plays him does a really good job of like capturing his ability to manipulate people's emotions, manipulate a scene, and kind of he almost always feels like a looming character, that he's always behind everything, that you're rooting for the bastards to win out in the end, to kill the Nazis. But it almost feels like Lando the whole time knows what's going on and is almost one step ahead of them. And just seeing him, and sometimes you don't even realize it. Like it happens as you go and you're like, oh, he knew about this. He knew this was, and
right.
I like that. I thought that was really well done. So I definitely say Hans Lando was my favorite character.
I'd also have to go with Hans. I just think Christoph Waltz, like this really put him on the map. Like in terms of
totally.
his fame.
He deserved it. He got an Oscar for this role, which is amazing.
Very well written, very well acted, very three-dimensional character.
Totally.
In terms of subtlety. And he after that, Tarantino put him in Django Unchained. He's been in the Battle Angel, but I don't think since then he hasn't reached that level yet. And I think it's got to be his best performance.
Oh, totally. And even the cultural references of 40s German film, like Riefenstahl. Oh my God, he's mentioned so many other he's referenced so much that so much to dig into culturally as well. And he does it's not too historic, but he does kind of contextualize it enough where you see, Joseph Goebbels, who's actually a character who Shoshana meets, pretending to be the French cinema owner, where they showcase and hold the premiere for their propaganda film, Stolz der Nation, or the nation's pride. They even briefly show Göring, the leader of the German Air Force, and they point out Martin Bormann and other high-ranking German officers. So I think, even though it's it's a very ahistoric film, he does actually put it in historical context, which I think is great. And even though you think, Hitler's going to leave the movie theater because that's how the Reich worked, and you think it's going to end up being somewhat historic and that this could have happened, but instead Hitler burns in the theater, which again, once upon a time in Nazi occupied France, it's like a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale. So any lasting thoughts, any final words?
I mean, it got released on Netflix pretty recently, so everyone listening, please watch it, please check it out. You've got all the time in the world now.
Watch it. It's great.
Especially if you like kind of historical films, because kind of as you were saying, Graham, it's maybe not like a historical nonfiction where it's exactly what happened. It doesn't play out exactly, obviously, as history does. But as to point out what you were saying, they do meet a lot of the cultural references and different things that were going on in Germany and France. And so I think they end up playing that really well. So even though it might not play out history exactly as it went out, it's kind of like oh my God, I cannot speak English. An interesting alternate history almost, which I think was kind of interesting. So
yeah. Well, thank you all for joining me today. Josh, great having you as a guest host. Ethan, thanks for joining me again. And thank you all for joining me today. This has been the Wise Duke Podcast.